What is up, everyone, and welcome to episode 43 of the Trainer Scoop podcast. It's the first time I'm back in person with my guests since March of 2020, so we're back at it, and I'm very happy to be at Findlay Barbell with Braden and Ashley. So guys, thank you so much for coming on. Really appreciate you, having me. We just did a great pull day session in their facility. Awesome gym. Great vibes, and really excited to get this podcast underway. Excited to bring some of Braden and Ashley's, we'll go alphabetically, Ashley and Braden's perspectives to you guys. So definitely interested to hear a little bit about both of your backgrounds, how you kind of ended up in this spot of this awesome gym, and what the path along the way has been. Whoever wants to start.
Sure. Thank you for having us on. Really appreciate you making the drive, and it's exciting to have you in the house and checking the place out. Finally meet you in person.
I know.
Finally. So gosh, man, what kind of commenced all of this for us? Ash and I both competed in bodybuilding. Ashley did women's figure. I did men's open bodybuilding and classic physique. And I feel like one of the biggest things that contributed to the opening of Findlay Barbell would be just the fact that there's really not a facility within our area that accommodates to the more serious weightlifters, the more serious athletes, whether that be powerlifters or the physique athletes. And I myself, consider myself to be a pretty nice, pretty easygoing guy for the most part, but I've been thrown out of a couple different gyms in the area just for, the way that I was training and just getting in the zone, enjoying my training a little too much, I suppose. But, I figured if it was an issue for me, eventually it was going to be an issue for some of the other athletes in our area. So we wanted to do something to accommodate to those folks and kind of create a safe space for them. And I think that's what started Findlay Barbell. And as we grow, it's happening quite quickly here, but as we grow, we're learning that we can take this a variety of different directions and benefit from this in more than just one way and accommodate to more than just those serious athletes.
I guess we've always had a gym for ourselves. We started in our old house. We had a one-car garage is basically where this all started, and just swapping out different equipment and kind of getting a little bit better quality and figuring out a little bit better of what we want to do. I think this is, eventually it just came to, why are we not opening up for members kind of thing and doing personal training somewhere in a commercial space.
Exactly. And it eventually just blossomed into what we have here, and it's just going to continue to grow from here so long as we have the support that we're seeking from the community, which so far has been great, so we can't be upset or displeased by that at all. It's been phenomenal. So as you see, we're starting to get some guests coming in here. There's some members rather, but the community in here is awesome. Everybody's just super kind, super inviting, very helpful, always wanting to share tips and information. And I think that's the culture that we've been aspiring to build since day one, is a community, a brotherhood, just like a family in here, And I'm happy to say we successfully started heading that direction. So
I think there's a big persona of the big bodybuilding, powerlifting guys that are intimidating or mean, and I think we just kind of prove that they're all a bunch of big teddy bears.
Yeah,
very
absolutely.
true.
Absolutely.
Very true, and I feel like that, while, we had this discussion earlier, the community aspect of a facility like this it's so crucial, and a lot of people, there's a barrier to entry, right? Like, it can be tough to walk in the doors and see some of this type of equipment that, you're not the most familiar with. It might not be like what you see at a Planet Fitness, but like you said, like breaking down those barriers, realizing that, that huge guy Braden, he's actually super nice. He's going to help me with my form. Braden was actually just coaching me on some rear delts today, so I can attest. If you're in the Findlay area, do yourself a favor and check out their spot. It really is something special, and I think that you guys are going to see a ton of success with it over time, especially with some of the cool things you have going forward. But one thing I overlooked, I always like to do a quick little segment of how I kind of come into acquaintance with my guests, and it's happened this way with a couple podcast guests where we'll just like message back and forth on Instagram, never really met in person, but you form these relationships like grounded in fitness, and I just think it's one of the coolest things. Like, so I'm not even sure how we started messaging back and forth. Maybe it was about gym equipment or something, but it's so cool to be here in person, meeting you guys and seeing like this whole thing come to fruition. So
yeah, I appreciate that. Excuse me. And if I'm thinking correctly here, I think that all started when I messaged you about your new Elite FTS equipment that you received.
Okay.
And I remember my eyes lit up, and I can appreciate the quality and craftsmanship of their stuff, and we have some of their stuff in our gym. But for those who aren't aware, Elite FTS is Ohio-based, phenomenal company ran by Dave Tate. And gosh, guys, they make some awesome equipment. If you're curious to check some of it out, we do have a few pieces here within our facility. David here can attest to the fact that they make some awesome stuff. So, yeah, that's what initially caught my attention. Then we started messaging back and forth a little bit, and I think that we speak on that community and that camaraderie, and I think a lot of good vibes, a lot of synergy there when you and I started communicating back and forth, and I saw a lot of myself in you and your in what you do as a trainer and as a coach, and maybe you can agree. Kind of that back and forth, we started to really kind of hit it off, and I was like, man, I'd love to hear a little bit more about this podcast. I actually started listening to your podcast recently. I caught both episodes of Nick Topol's show. I had to tune in. He's a local guy, so we all know Nick. And I remember Nick spoke on time management, and it really caught my attention. I was really kind of tuned in on that topic, but that's something that I feel like I've been losing sight of lately, and with that said, hearing some of this information on your podcast has been helpful for me in my own walks of life, because I've been taking some bits and pieces away from that. Like, I'm going to apply this to my situation and see how it works out for me. So props to Nick for sharing some cool information there, and to you for obviously putting the podcast and the content out there for us to check out.
I appreciate that. That's awesome to hear. Like, you kind of just do it. I do it because it's like a passion project. It's like my baby. But to see that, it's impacting people and there's some good takeaways, it's very reassuring for me to keep going with it. So I appreciate you saying that, man.
Absolutely.
That's awesome.
Absolutely.
Very curious to hear about kind of like your guys' professional background leading up to, your own entrepreneurial like baby. This is it. So yeah, whoever wants to start off, I'm curious to hear like what the path has been, whether it be like your education, different jobs you've held in the past, if it's always been fitness, went back and forth. Interested to hear about it.
So as Braden said, we have both been competitive bodybuilders. I think that pretty much you got me into this. You were competing first, and then I guess that's true with any relationship. When one person does something for long enough, at some point the significant other joins. So the gym became our time together, because we didn't really have a whole lot of time together, working separate schedules and everything.
Yeah.
I have been in the service industry for 13 years, and that helps a lot too when it comes to personal contact, building relationships with people, sales, stuff like that. So I think that also helps.
Absolutely. Yeah, and I came straight out of high school studying music, of all things.
Really?
And I've sort of lost sight of that, and I think that is kind of a testament to how much I was able to find that creative output within the fitness industry, because I felt like music was my 1-2 punch. It was my creative output. It was what I felt defined me, So for me to start getting involved with fitness and have something that came in and kind of consumed that and kicked it out the back door kind of speaks volumes to how much it impacted my life, So I think that the biggest takeaway there is, you can write, going back to the music here, you can write a piece that's very emotional, a very emotionally charged piece, and you put a lot of that emotional energy into that composition. And I think that there is something to be said for how much you are able to kind of reflect some of that emotional energy and sort of kind of bounce back from it, because you have this like kind of creative output, and you're able to kind of put these pieces together. But the thing about fitness is, from like a physical standpoint, getting in the gym and moving and pushing the boundaries and pushing past what used to be your limitations, there's something about that that's special to me. And I always say, you can't teach it, you can't steal it, you can't buy it. If you want a Corvette because you're jealous because somebody else has it, you go work hard enough, you get yourself a Corvette. But you can't buy, purchase, steal, lie about a physique. You either have it or you don't, and it takes a lot of work to get there. It takes a lot of work to maintain it. And that's just kind of one of those things about it that's always sort of sat with me. I love that I've been able to accomplish what I have with it, and continue to grow on that. And as Ashley mentioned, I think she sort of got bit by that bug too, and we began to share that. And then, we've both always been very competitive people, and it used to be a little bit more competitiveness, within our own household on, silly tasks and stuff. But
That's
that
awesome.
kind of grew into like competing against each other to us versus them, where it kind of transitioned to, well, Ashley's prepping for her show. Now it's her versus all the other competitors, and we're in the same corner, and we have each other's backs. And I think that grew, it grew us together, it grew us closer. Our marriage strengthened from that. And I just really think that there's just been so much that we were able to take away from the experience that has grown us and shaped us as individuals, as spouses, and I love to find new ways to communicate that learning experience to others. So when you have your clients, watching that growth, sharing your own stories, it's interesting because everybody has, their own path, but we're all kind of brothers of the iron, and we all sort of, kind of have that same kind of mindset when it's all said and done. Like, this changed my life in one way or another. And so, to be in a position where we, could move forward with our certifications and continue to grow on the coaching, and recently become, certified nutritionist, as well as, a couple other certifications for personal training. And now I'm studying dietetics at Bowling Green State University.
Nice.
So the growth just kind of keeps happening. It's like a snowball effect, for us, it's just, we've enjoyed so much watching all of this kind of come together and come to fruition that we just, it seems like the addictiveness just kind of continues to grow. And now it's like, how far can we take this? How valuable can we be as coaches? And I think that's something special to both of us, and we kind of share that now. So that's good.
Yeah, I really like how you kind of ended with that little transition of like, you've reaped so many benefits out of fitness, like strengthening your marriage. You guys are like the dynamic duo. I saw it in action out here today while we were working out. That personal growth, all kinds of growth, not just hypertrophy of your muscle cells. And now you're passing it on as like a coach. And that's something that was super alluring to me as I kind of was figuring out what I wanted to do with my life. So definitely agree. What's the word I'm looking for? See the parallel path of how that's going, even though we come from different backgrounds and all that. So it's cool. I'm super curious, Braden. What was did you study like composition, or what was the background of your musical as you started off?
Yeah, so I actually studied music theory and oral skills.
Yeah.
So, what's especially challenging about oral skills, and I'll try not to go too far into the music world here, so we can stay focused. But I do want to kind of speak on oral skills, because that experience for me was just so unique. So to kind of give you an example of like something we would see as students in oral skills courses, our professors would literally play progressions on the piano, and we couldn't see them. And as a student, we'd have to say, "Oh, you're playing a 1-4-5-1 progression in C major," And that's, I used that example earlier. It's not really something that could be looked up in a book as much as it's something that has to be developed. And I think that a lot of how I tune in on things from a creative standpoint kind of came from that.
Yeah.
Because I took so much away from that experience. So it was definitely unique, definitely very challenging. So to answer your question, it was music theory and oral skills is what were my courses of study there. As a music major. So.
Very cool. Yeah. I was like classically super heavy emphasis on the classic, because my piano teacher from when I was 8 to 18 was like the sweetest old Italian woman. And yeah, she definitely got me into all kinds of I even played a Rachmaninoff piece once. Like, just the most wildly challenging things as I got up there in age. So I definitely appreciate that, and I think there are parallels within the two. Like, especially as you were talking about like expressing yourself, I definitely kind of get that, because it was such a big part of my life in my formative years. You know, I was like doing band and taking private lessons. So that's really cool. Another similarity we didn't even know we had.
Uncovering all of the fun information today.
Right. Very cool. So one thing that I was particularly curious about with the space you have here is what was kind of like the deciding factor. Actually, you briefly hit on it, but what was really the kind of like jumping off point of when you guys decided to transition from the awesome home setup you had where you were training people to this like really, once again, awesome retail location that you have now?
So I guess we always kind of, this was a long time coming. We had been planning on owning our own business, and I think we pretty much knew that was going to be a gym.
Yeah.
I actually told Braden when we moved in April to our new home now, and everything was in the basement. I told Braden when it comes out, it doesn't go back in. I do not want scuffs on the floor and wall and carrying gym equipment from the basement. It was a nightmare. So we actually had a different place lined up, and the sublease fell through. Braden knew that it wasn't going back into the basement, so it just kind of happened.
Yeah.
The best things in life.
We spoke on this earlier, and when you say it just kind of happened, gosh, it's wild to me how much this required, to get this rolling. I think people think you just get an empty shell and throw equipment in there, and then you have yourself a public gym. And from a legal standpoint, there's a lot that you have to do to prepare yourself for it. So what was really exciting for me was seeing how quickly it all unfolded, and we were able to work kind of stress-free and on an efficient basis and tackle all these tasks just to make this happen as quickly as possible. And to speak on Ashley's point, this has been in the works for a long time. We've been considering this for a long time. I think that a lot of what contributed to the offset of this or the delay in the process is just the fact that we're not huge risk takers, Ashley and I. So we kind of drug our feet a lot. You're biting off a lot more when you're looking at leasing a commercial space and stuff versus being in your basement, of course. That's something that you already possess, and you don't have to worry about the added expenditures, throughout the month, in terms of paying for rent and electric and cam services and all this other stuff for a commercial unit, So we're not much risk takers, so we kind of drug our feet about that. But, to kind of summarize, where I stand with that now, even if I were to fall on my face with this project, I'm going to be proud of the fact that Ash and I went for it and we put the energy and time that we have into this project, because it's been go for us. And we've ran this gym like we care about running a gym, and like we care about providing something cool for the community. So even if it were to be something that doesn't go the way that we had hoped, which we certainly don't hope it does, or certainly hope it does not, excuse me, but even if it were to, I think that seeing how much energy and effort Ash and I put into this, I can still be proud of us and still be proud of the fact that Findlay Barbell was here and it made its name, and we had a lot of fun with it. So.
Totally agree. I mean, you don't know until you try, kind of thing. And yeah, I think maybe that's one thing that we're scared of failure. So it's going to push us to do as much as we can, whatever we can, making sure the members are happy. We've been putting things on Instagram of like, hey, this is a piece we're looking at getting. What do you think? Give us a message, like yes or no polls. And I mean, it just kind of happened, was like we just kind of decided. But I mean, there is a ton more that went into it. We probably looked at 10 commercial spaces before, and I think the 16-foot bay door is one thing that kind of had us sold. When the weather's nice, you open that up, parking lot out back, flipping tractor tires and doing lunges and whatever out there. But there's so much permits and insurance and different licenses and everything that goes into this also. So when I say it just kind of happened, it just kind of started the process.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's all sort of a blur now. You know, we had this idea, and then one day I felt like we just were sitting in our gym, and it was like, oh wow, so here we are.
Yeah,
this really happened, you know, and it just kind of it's crazy. Yeah, it just sort of unfolded in a way that it just kind of blew past us, and next thing we know, here we are, you know. And I think that kind of suggests that we were really tuned in on our project, and we were really focused on the task at hand every time, you know, and it kept us so focused and determined that, you know, it was all just kind of a blur, man, and here we are.
right. And I will say, while there are a ton of logistical things to consider, there's nothing like a garage door in a gym that you can pop open on those nice days. It's a great touch. So,
Absolutely.
on that same note, how did you learn about the process of getting all these different licenses that you need? You know, understanding insurance, understanding the whole process of moving it, like you said, from your home to this commercial location.
You know, I always say, man, I always appreciate resourceful people. So, you know, if somebody reaches out to me on social media and they're asking questions about a post where the answers to those questions are clearly outlined within that post, you know, I always think to myself, you know, it makes me kind of appreciate, you know, resourceful individuals and their ability to get after it and dig it up and figure it out themselves. And I think that that's kind of what happened here. You know, we knew we had to make this happen. We knew that we are hard workers, and it's something that we could chip away at and you know, find success with because we're such hard workers. And not to toot our own horn, but I mean, Ashley is one of the hardest workers I know, and you know, I try my best to keep up. So, you know, so to be resourceful, you know, if you're starting a business, maybe you're thinking of being resourceful in terms of going out and figuring out your own answers and digging things up, and you know, you'll get a lot more accomplished, and you'll feel a lot better if you take the time to kind of do things on your own, and just be resourceful, dig up what you need to dig up to uncover. You know, we didn't have anybody saying this is the outline, you have to do this, and this, a blueprint, a legal blueprint. We went after it, and we did our research, and you know, we hammered everything out, hired an attorney to kind of seal the deal and finalize everything and make sure that all of the documents look good. Initially, we actually did our own liability waivers and membership agreements, and basically our attorney just went in and kind of zipped up a couple loose ends and touched it up a little bit, and here we are now with the final product that he's produced. So, but yeah, again, just being resourceful, I think, right, Ashley, probably more than anything.
I mean, the shorter answer is I Googled a lot. I'm not going to lie. I mean, we called our insurance agent. We are friends with an attorney who pointed us in the right direction. But yeah, I Googled a lot of stuff.
Exactly.
I had no idea that we had to check with zoning and like how to get a zoning permit, and that this area falls under the general contract or whatever. That's like the most difficult one. It's so specific of what can go in there. So then we had to look in if it's actually okay to put a gym in that zone. Mm-hmm. It is.
It's like commercial zoning class B, I believe.
I don't remember what the zone was, but
yeah, it's very strict. So it you know, we were toward the end of sealing the deal. We were about 2 days out from signing the lease, and we uncovered some of this information, and we're like, wow, so we need answers quick.
Yeah.
So we had reached out to our zoning officer out here in Marion Township, and he I should elaborate, this is actually a Findlay mailing address, but much like our house down the street, it's in Findlay technically, but it's also recognized as Marion Township. It's kind of funny, but
we're actually in Van Buren School District too.
We're all over the place.
It's so weird.
That's funny.
But to kind of to build on that, you know, we uncovered a couple days prior to signing the lease for this spot that we were in a pretty funny little situation in terms of the zoning class out here. So we had to do a little digging there and reached out to our zoning officer and got a last minute answer before we signed the lease. But it's funny, man, because when we talk about all this, I'm sort of reflecting here, and I'm thinking to myself, if anybody that is currently part of this project, whether they're a member or they're a personal training client or they're watching us on social media or they're listening on this podcast, if any of these folks could just kind of be a fly on the wall to watch this whole process unfold, you know, it wasn't it wasn't some kind of spectacular like situation as much as it was just Ashley and I running around like chickens with our heads cut off, like hoping we're doing things right. And I think that that's kind of how everything works in life, where it's just you're just trying to do your best and use your better judgment. And if you take the time, again, typically the output is rewarding and worth it. So
definitely. I actually really like your answer to that question, Braden, because everyone's going to have different needs within, their own business. And like you said, it's so much more impactful. You're going to learn a lot more and just rewarding at the end of the day to figure out like what you have to do to get your dream off the ground. Like for me, it was super simple. Like get the LLC, get the insurance, same thing with liability. I looked it all up and I learned a lot about that stuff in the process. So I think that was really well thought out. There's not going to be a perfect, 5-step thing to get your gym off the ground. Everybody has different requirements and good insights there. Definitely. So as I'm looking across our table here, I'm seeing it's Boehler, right? That's how you pronounce your last name? How do you say it?
It's actually pronounced Boehler.
Boehler, okay.
It totally looks
I should have
like
asked you
It
that.
looks like
Looks
Boehler.
like
No, it's all right. I honestly, I was going to tell you.
Boehler.
I was going to tell you before the podcast today how to pronounce it, so that we could be prepared. And I'm like, no, you know what? This needs to be organic. And now that I'm watching it unfold, it's everything that I imagined.
Yeah. That's so funny. So tell me a little bit about I'm guessing that's pretty much what your coaching brand is under. Definitely interested to hear what you do with it.
Yeah, so Body by Boehler was a project that, actually when it started, part of one of, our services, we were doing a meal prep and delivery service. And gosh, it was such a headache. We pulled the plug voluntarily on that project. We were doing great, but we saw where the coaching was heading with Body by Boehler, and we were hiring part-time associates to do the meal prep and stuff, and Ashley and I were barely sleeping. We kind of landed on this point where we said, I don't feel that this aspect of our brand is worth it anymore. And so there's value out there. If somebody else in our area wants to do it, it's going to take off. There's a place for that here, for sure. It's trending right now. The idea of meal prep and eating on a healthy pattern.
Definitely.
Especially if you can get into you see a lot with keto right now and all these other, diet methods that Ashley's kind of giving her little head nod here. Head shake.
You can't see it, but I'm giving my opinions on that one.
So
that's funny.
Carbs are your friends.
Carbs are definitely your friend. Body by Boehler started as kind of a multifaceted operation. Eventually, the coaching sort of took over, and we said, hey, this is a no-brainer for us. This is what we enjoy doing more, so we just shifted the focus to just the coaching. So that grew into not just online coaching, but also the one-on-one personal training and group training.
Right.
It's been good, man. It's been really good to us, and we're happy.
Right. And I think that's cool to see how it kind of evolved into what you really enjoy doing. And for me, I almost when I've had similar things happen, I almost feel like at first it's like, damn, this is kind of like a failure. Like I feel bad about giving up what the original plan was, but it's kind of like the beauty of the evolution of what you're going for. And that's cool to see that you're in a good spot where, obviously as you were putting me through it today, you're really good at coaching in person and online. That's always a valuable thing to have in your pocket as well. Fun to work with. I feel like for me at least, it allows me to work with a lot more people and have a bigger impact. So very cool to see that that's where you're at with it.
Absolutely, definitely, man. And I want to speak on what you mentioned earlier. I've learned with our brand, with our gym, and with a lot of other things in life, I've learned that some things aren't put in our lives because they are the 1-2 punch that we're going to be doing this forever. Some things are put in our lives because they're funneling us to the final product. And that, it kind of sounds to me like that's what you're speaking on here, where maybe you started with this original plan, and then somewhere in there you learned, well, I can see a lot more value added by going this route, or maybe I'll enjoy the process a lot more, maybe I'll enjoy my brand a lot more, maybe the clients will enjoy the brand a lot more, and you just kind of pick leaves off of the tree until you've got that one leaf left on the tree, and then that's the one, and you say, okay, this seems to be what I'm having the best synergy with in my life, in my brand, and that's kind of how it happened Body by Body.
Yeah, very cool. I like your analogies. You're good at it.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
An all-around teacher. That's what I'm getting.
Well, thank you.
And on that note, I just kind of like beautifully transitioned myself. Interested to hear both of your advice to kind of like up-and-coming fitness professionals, maybe someone that's just jumping into the industry, someone that's in school, someone that wants to eventually own their own gym. What's your 2 cents for those people, rather?
I've never felt that I was up to par with a lot of the other really, really well-marketed personal trainers and online coaches. I always felt like I was 5 steps behind. I always felt like I didn't have the good quality photographs to put on my social media stream. I didn't have the presence on social media to make those posts that jump out at you, or maybe I'm going on and typing this huge, post, and Ashley's teaching me as I'm doing this that people don't want to sit back and read this long post. They want to see something that gets to the point, draws them in, and then that will be your funnel system. You know what I mean? And so that was a learning process for me. I've always felt like I was behind though, man, and I never did the best with it. So for me to be asked for advice, it's kind of funny, because I'm always seeking advice from everybody else, because that's how you grow, and adding more and more chapters to the book, so to speak. But, for me, personally, guys, I just think that patience is a very, very, very strong tool in your corner. And, that works in many different aspects of what we do here with Findlay Barbell and Body by Boehler, but if we're talking about working with our clients, for example, there was a moment where I was training a client, David, and I said to myself, I'm firing away at this client super, super aggressively right now. Just check the boxes, one thing after another. So I believe at this particular time, the client is incline pressing, and I'm explaining to them, track the scapula, keep that sternum high, and I'm going on, and I'm talking about the clavicular head and bicipital groove insertions, and just throwing stuff out there, and then I realized, like, this isn't how these clients need to be spoke to, So first and foremost, you need to find that format that is versatile and anybody can understand and kind of piece apart and learn from. But not just that, but be patient enough to know and see in yourself, like, okay, it's okay to teach one thing at a time. So maybe if I do bring a new client in here, they've never touched a weight before, there might be one box we check. There might be one box we check on that first session that says, okay, well, we're walking away from this session, and now he's doing this correctly. And you can't be so impatient and so close to the project that you're trying to check all the boxes at once. It's a game of patience, and you have to set the bar at, I'm going to teach this client one thing at a time, enough for them to absorb, and that's value added, and we want to be, and then we find sustainability with that, and that's kind of where I find myself with the coach. I had to back away from the project and say, hey, I'm throwing too much out there at this. It looks like their head's spinning. Let's take a step back and let's show them one thing at a time, and that's been a lot more, I found a lot more success with that.
Yeah.
For sure.
Any insights, Ashley?
I mean, I feel like you just went off on a tangent so much I forgot what the original question was.
Just advice to those up and coming, trying to make a career out of this whole fitness thing. Any insights that you have?
I guess it doesn't really matter if you're looking at opening your own gym or becoming a personal trainer or becoming a athlete. There's a lot more to it than you realize. So do your research and be prepared. I mean, looking back at from opening this gym to becoming a personal trainer and doing bodybuilding, there's financially, emotionally, there's a lot more to it than you ever realize. And I just be prepared for that, I guess.
That's very, very true. Well worded. Yeah, there's always more to it than you realize. And I think that social media, David, I think it makes the world really small. I think that when we see social media now in 2021, it's you can be in touch with anybody anytime, and there's a lot of content out there. And I think that social media really glamorizes a lot of the industry, and you don't really see the ugly. You want to be able to see the good, bad, and ugly in every scenario before you pursue it. You want to know, well, I see some good in this. I see some potential value in this, but I'm going to do a little bit more research, and I'm going to get a better understanding for some of the not so shiny moments within this, and I think that ties really well into competitive physique sports, So when we're talking about bodybuilding, I think that a lot of folks will see it on social media, and they'll say, I want to compete in physique sports. I want to be a bodybuilder. I want to be Mr. Olympia someday. And then they get involved, and it's like, wow, this is a whole different level of work. This is, and Ashley and I use this example, and hopefully this puts things into perspective for you. And I remember you were talking to Nick about one of his preps, and I was laughing in my car, thinking to myself, yeah, this sounds really good. But there was points during our prep, Ashley and I, where we would be relaxing on the couch. We were both in prep for the Flex Lewis Classic in Murfreesboro, Tennessee, and we were laying on the couch, and we were so hungry, both of us, that I could see it in her face, you could see it in mine. It looked like we were both going to start crying. We were going to have mental breakdowns because our appetite was so out of control. But get this, despite our appetite being that out of control, we didn't. It's like we couldn't possess the energy just to get up and walk to the fridge and get our prepped meal and put it in the microwave and eat it. It's like this is you being so depleted that you would do anything to eat, but you don't have the energy to do the smallest task to get that meal in. And it's like, wow, this is the reality that is competitive bodybuilding and really pushing things to that limit. Yeah. And I always say, man, if I could speak on this for a minute, I always say that. Make sure the juice is worth the squeeze. With bodybuilding, guys, I think honestly, looking back now, I think bodybuilding sort of made me hate my body. So there's always going to be different outcomes. Especially with physique sports, something that's subjective. But for me, guys, I got really tired of walking in every room and thinking I have to be the biggest, most ripped dude in here. I wanted to get away from that, and I think once I separated myself from bodybuilding, I got my confidence back. So for what it's worth, it's not always going to be sunshine and rainbows. There's going to be some ugly adventures, and my adventure was a little bit ugly. Because it kind of took me down a dark path and made me super self-conscious, man. Really more than anything, So there's the reality of that too, and it's all fun and games until you get in the bullpen, and then you kind of learn what it's like to take some horns. You know what I mean?
There's definitely a lot of body dysmorphia in the bodybuilding community. I mean, when you're prepping for a show, going on stage, you are at the leanest, craziest looking you've ever seen yourself. So once you reverse out of that, I mean, it's not a healthy state. You're not.
Certainly not sustainable.
No, definitely not. My second show, my lowest reading was 5.5% body fat. You don't even have the fat on. That's something you don't think about. The bottom of your feet, your soles, is body fat. So you don't even have that. It feels like you're walking on your ankle bones.
What? Yeah, I've never thought of that.
It is. It's terrible. Like what Braden said, I would pack my meals at the beginning of the day. Everything was weighed out in the fridge. All I had to do was heat it up and eat it. And after a meal 4 o'clock p.m., you don't even have the energy to get off the couch and eat it. It's just, you don't have the will to live anymore.
Right.
But as I was saying, once you're reversing after your show, you're looking at yourself at a good, healthy 20-25% body fat for females, and you're like, damn, I look awful, because you've already seen yourself at what you would love to see yourself at. So there is a huge brain mentality fog of you want to look like that all the time, and it's you can't.
It really is like chasing the dragon. It's almost like that speaking on like it's like a drug. It's like chasing the dragon, where you've seen yourself at your pinnacle, you've seen yourself at your best, and now everything's unsatisfactory. You know what I mean? So it's like you've experienced that greatest high, that greatest tier of that high, and now it's like it's a downward slope from here until my next prep. And then you get back in your next prep and you remember how hard it is, and you're like, well, at the amateur level, I get nothing. I get a plastic sword that's hanging up on the wall here at Findlay Barbell. And I think to myself when I look at it, like, was it worth it? So this is me speaking on my real experience with bodybuilding. Looking back, Yeah, it was worth it to me, but I'm glad that I got out of it when I did, because I was very much addicted to that sport and that lifestyle. And now it's at a point where I can focus on my coaching, and that's so much more rewarding and enjoyable. And I really mean that.
I feel like I will always have that like spot in my heart for bodybuilding. I loved my experience. I actually was dumb enough, and I don't ever suggest this. I did back-to-back 20-week preps. So I was in prep for 40 weeks straight. I do not suggest that at all. It was awful. But I learned so much about myself, not even just physically, but mentally, like being able to stay on 24. It's bodybuilding's really a 24/7 sport. It matters what you eat, how much water you drink, how much sleep you get, what supplements you're taking, like all those macro and micronutrients. And I mean, football, you're on the field, you play, and then you know what I mean? It's like, it's not, you have your times, where bodybuilding is constant. It's constant. And I don't know, I loved the experience. Watching the daily changes was awesome. Mm-hmm. Training the pumps were insane. Like, I probably had some of the best training sessions in prep, but I don't know. I don't know if I would go moving forward, if I would do another show or not.
It's all about choose your heart, I guess. You know, as I always say, it's hard to get your shredded abs, but it's also hard to say no to a cheeseburger. So so choose your heart, right?
Yeah.
Some days Five Guys wins.
Right. No, that's some sage advice from both of you there. I like that. Like, the catchphrase of the show is "choose your heart" and "is the juice worth the squeeze." I like that, and also just like the way you both approach that question. Originally you were talking about like the financial side, and then Braden, you were talking about kind of like where you want to put your energy in the coaching. Those two different perspectives were super cool. So I appreciate that, and it shows how good of a team you are. Is that your client, Ashley?
Yes. Is that yours? Do we both have a 4 o'clock?
But there's a possibility. I'm looking at who it is right now, and there's a possibility he might think it's his session. He gets a little confused sometimes, so I stay on top of him. He's a busy guy. He's a really busy guy, and a very hard worker and heart of gold. So good dude over there. I won't say any names. Good dude. He'll see this podcast.
I was gonna say, if he ever listens, he'll know.
Oh yeah. Well, Ashley and potentially Braden have some clients coming up, so I want to wrap this up. And first of all, say thank you to the audience for listening, and once again, huge thank you to you guys for having me come up, showing me around the gym, coaching me up a little bit, and taking time to do the podcast. I know you guys are crazy busy, so it means a lot to take time to do this.
Very glad you could make it out here today.
This was awesome, man.
Definitely.
Just good vibes, man. It was just super fun and laid back, and I can appreciate that. I wasn't sure how much it would be like. I'd be over here in a nervous sweat. Give a good answer, Braden. I gotta follow that up, you know. So
I'm actually glad you didn't get the camera out. I was not prepared for that.
Yeah.
Hey, we are vibing on the audio today.
For those of you who are looking for a visual representation of what's happening, we're blinking a lot. We're drooling. No, I'm kidding. No, it's been great, man. Thank you so much for coming out. We're so happy that we could finally meet you, and gosh, you know, for the listeners that haven't met you in person, he's a lot taller than he looks on Instagram.
I'm dead. That's funny. In closing, I really want to kind of spread the word about what you guys got going on, both here at the gym and what you do online. So where can the people find you in town and follow you on the internet?
Absolutely, yeah. So we, right now, honestly, at the forefront of all things, Findlay Barbell, the social media content for Findlay Barbell is definitely the most relevant and up to date right now, and kind of at the forefront of our priorities, only because that is where we need to see the most growth with our brands right now. But if you guys are thinking of Instagram, we have the Findlay Barbell page on Instagram. We are also on Facebook. If you guys do come in and you check the gym out, please be courteous and consider maybe a Google review, because that helps us tremendously in sort of developing.
I'm gonna leave one.
Yeah, definitely. We appreciate that.
Yes.
But yeah, that helps us tremendously in kind of building ourselves on the internet as well, and having that presence with Google Business and stuff as well. So, but yeah, we Instagram, Facebook, Findlay Barbell guys. That's kind of again at the forefront of our social media right now.
I'm actually blanking on our address. I believe it's 15630 State Route 12.
Yes.
So it basically looks like a strip mall. But it's storage units kind of deal.
It makes for the best gym setup.
Basically.
The best gyms are always in obscure places.
Very true.
It's true.
That's
it's
very
true.
true.
So we are just east of Findlay
Yeah.
on
just
State
right-
Route 12. Yes.
Not as far out as most people think. It's just a few minutes from the East Branch West, so that's nice. Cool.
Well, guys, once again, I appreciate you. I appreciate everybody for sticking through the episode, and we'll catch you in episode 44.